Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing another one of my collections. Speaking of today, it's actually Christmas, so for those of you who celebrate it, I hope you're having a fantastic Christmas. I'm grateful that you're choosing to spend your Christmas actually watching this video. And for those of you who don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Anyway, if you watched my series 12 Days of Pokemon Memories with Poketai, you'll know that he and I were hinting at a surprise video for today, and that was originally going to be a Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Wi-Fi battle between us, but he isn't quite ready to do Wi-Fi battles yet, so we were going to change it to just a showdown battle. But then we just figured that might work better as a subscriber showdown episode. So ultimately he tweeted this at me, and I just kind of added these two ideas together to create this mixture of a video that hopefully you guys will enjoy. So without any further ado, I proudly present my Dragon Ball Z toy, action figure, whatever you want to call it, collection. As you can already tell, this isn't solely a Dragon Ball collection. There are other kinds of figurines scattered in throughout here. I should also clarify that I didn't collect these to collect them. I played with these, as you can see. Most of the toys in here show at least some type of wear, while others are so maimed it's hard to even tell what they were at one point. Well, now that they're all out of the bag, I suppose I could go over each of them individually. Let's start off with this one of Cell. Right off the bat, this is a weird one because it's not plastic like the other ones. It's actually some type of rubber, I think. This makes it easier to destroy, which I know because I had another Cell figurine almost identical to this one at one point, but let's just say it met with a terrible fate and is no longer with us. But this one still looks good, at least. Now after Cell comes Majin Buu, right? Well, as you can see, this one's definitely seen better days. There was a time when I would have considered this the highlight of my collection, but that was before it tried to fight a dog and ended up losing, so as you can see, most of Buu's head and leg are missing, but fortunately he's got that regeneration, so he's doing alright. Now we got the headless Great Saiyaman. No! It's alright, he's got two heads actually. They're somewhere in the pile. We'll get them fixed up later. And now we got the Demon King Deborah. This one actually comes with a sword, which is the one he materializes. Like Great Saiyaman's head, it's somewhere in the pile. And as you can see, there are actually two of this Deborah figure. One was mine, one was my cousin Poketai's. I used to be able to distinguish them. I believe mine is this one with the darker outline, but I don't remember. Alright, now we got Piccolo. He's missing his turban again, it's somewhere in the pile. This was always one of my favorite toys just because the way his arm bent up, it like fit perfectly into his cape and was able to look like it was giving very effective punches. I think the cape comes off too, but I don't remember. Alright, now we got Gohan in his Kai uniform when he was training with the Z sword. This came with a Z sword, but it's not in the pile. I don't know what happened to it. Funnier yet, this is another one that I have two of, one mine, one Ty's, and I don't know what happened to either copy of the Z sword, so a bit unfortunate. This one also was pretty limited in its movement, so I didn't play with this one too much. Fortunately though, I also have this adult Gohan, and I also have two copies of this, again one mine, one Ty's, and this one had a lot better movement, so I played with these a lot more than the one in the Kai uniform. And now another Saiyan that I have two copies of, one being mine, one being Ty's. This is Majin Vegeta. I don't remember playing with this one a whole lot, but I do remember the details on it, like the M, as well as the ripped biceps. Alright, and now we get to this Piccolo, which, if memory serves, was my very first Dragon Ball Z action figure. I remember getting it at the mall with my grandparents close to 20 years ago, good lord. This one was never real big on action. It had limited movement. It ended up breaking at the bottom. You can see I super glued it. It came with a cape and turban, but both have since vanished. They're not in the pile. I don't know what happened to them. Here is Frieza, another one of the earliest toys I ever got. Unlike Piccolo, I actually played with this one a lot. He couldn't move the legs, but his hands were in a unique position that it led to some creative fights, not to mention his head. Headbutting things was always pretty satisfying. Here we got Vegito, who is shirtless at the moment. His vest is in the pile somewhere. I see he's missing that little flap of hair he's supposed to have. I don't remember playing with this one too much. It always played a part, but I never physically played with it much, just because it had limited movement, like you can't move the legs, can barely move the arms. But Vegito always played a part in something because he was always the most overpowered, so can't go wrong with Vegito. Speaking of overpowered, next we got the one and only Mista Satan, otherwise known as Hercule. I don't remember playing much with this toy. I don't even remember ever getting it. I just think it's hilarious and epic that I have this in my collection. Now we got this big boy, Babidi's minion Yakon. I believe this is the biggest among these action figures. It's pretty cool too, because you can actually pull these, what would you call them, spikes out of his hands. And they act as like pseudo swords too. It's kind of a shame Yakon was a bit of a pushover in the series, but playing with this toy like this was always enough to give him the spotlight he deserved. Alright, now on to some Gokus. There's this basic one that was Ty's. I never really played with this much, but it seems like a pretty cool figure. Then there's this one, which was also Ty's. It's Goku firing a Kamehameha. Not one with an actual firing mechanism, though. You gotta use your imagination. For one with an actual firing mechanism, there's this. Goku is missing his right arm, but don't worry about that. I always liked his left arm more anyway, just because you could move it and make it look like he was like force palming something. That's of course also the way he shoots. There's an actual button back here that you can press, and that's right. Now we get to this, which is not a Dragon Ball character. It's Yusuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho. I believe this is an If Labs figure. I always remember If Labs commercials would be featured all the time on like Dragon Ball Z tapes, hyping up the realistic looking figurines, but apparently they are also known for being huge, because this is the biggest actual figurine here. Yakon is the biggest of the Dragon Ball characters, but this is the biggest overall. Anyway, here, as I already showed, I got Android 19. There's two of them. One was mine, one was Ty's. Again, I was at one point able to differentiate them. I believe mine has more wear than Ty's. I think that's how I figured it out, but I don't remember anymore. You could hardly move this one too, so I didn't really play with it a lot. I just always liked the red orb thing on his hand. Now here is another Piccolo figure. This one's a little weird because it's got this thing you put your thumb on the back and you can like move it. Like it moves his hips while punching his arms. It's like a really weird mechanic that I don't think I have on any other figure. I don't think I played with this one too much because I was worried I would break the moving mechanic if I played with it as much as I played with my other ones, but it was still pretty cool having another Piccolo figure. Can never have too many of these bad boys. Now here we got a legendary figure that was the star of its own mini-series, known as Mr. Dr. Birder. That series which can be found on my home videos circa 2002 and 3. Anyway, yeah, this is just Birder from the Ginyu Force. He's the only member of the Ginyu Force figure that I had. I always liked the way he was cupping his hand because, for one, it was just different than most of the figures, and two, it added a bit of hilarity because it always looked like he was slapping people, which was a plot point in Mr. Dr. Burner, but I won't get into that today. Now here we got the Saiyan Elite himself, Nappa. This figure was cool to have, but Nappa himself is pretty weak, so he didn't really have a big role in a lot of the fights I would orchestrate. He'd mostly just get killed right away. His movement was a bit impaired too, due to his armor, which is a bit impractical when you think about it, but yeah. He's still got a mean punch though. Now we got the mastermind behind summoning Majin Buu, good old Madoshi Babidi. I basically never really played with this figure, it was always just kind of there supporting characters like Majin Buu. Babidi was never really a fighter to begin with, but even if he was, this figure can't really do anything. What little movement it has is impaired by its cape, which can come off, but Babidi looked really dumb, so I'll just pretend this never happened. Anyway, on to more of Babidi's minions. Here we have Pui Pui, and again, there's two of them. One was mine, one was Ty's. And despite how insignificant Pui Pui was in the series, I remember actually playing with this one a lot. I really don't know why. Maybe I just liked how different Pui Pui looked than everyone else. I don't know. But either way, still pretty cool. Now here is Android 16, who has always been one of my favorite characters. Unfortunately, this wasn't really one of my favorite toys just because it had limited movement. I couldn't do what I wanted to do with this toy, so I don't really remember playing with it that much. His arm comes off too, that's in the pile somewhere, so there's that. Here we got another Piccolo figure, hooray! This one actually shot though, it had a specific toy Makon Kosapo that it shot out. I don't think I ever had that toy. I believe this was actually my cousin Luke's that somehow ended up in my possession. But yeah, I never had the Makon Kosapo beam. I just liked the way he was positioned, particularly with his leg because it allowed for some cool looking kicks. Here we have the mastermind behind the android threat, good old Dr. Gero, or Gero, or Android 20. This one was Ty's, but eventually it just made its way into my collection. I really never got into this one. The movement was way too limited. I never really cared for Android 20 as a character, so apart from his brain being exposed underneath his hat, he actually has a hat somewhere in the pile. I never really cared for this toy other than that, but it's still a neat addition to the collection now though, so it's pretty cool. Here we have another one that was originally Ty's. This is Gogeta. He got this way before we knew who Gogeta was officially. This was just one of those rumor characters, like Goku and Vegeta fuse into this character, so he's like super powerful and we knew nothing about him. Always had a fun time with this one though, like the way he's just pointing, probably firing some beam, but I always just imagined him pointing at someone like, hey you want some of this? Here we have Android 17, and once again there are two of them. One was mine, one was Ty's, and once again I was at one point able to differentiate them, mine and his. I believe mine is the shinier one because mine was newer, like Ty got his before me, so when I got mine the shine stayed. But either way, this was always a pretty fun toy to play with, had a lot of nice movement capability, so yeah. Now to coincide with Android 17, we have Android 18. Don't ask why her skirt is off, it's not important. Anyway, this one was not really as movement friendly as Android 17. In fact, there were also two Android 18s at one point, but one of them met with a terrible fate and is no longer in one piece, so RIP A18. Here we have another Goku. This one is Super Saiyan, but is basically the same as the earlier one. It's got about the same pose and same movement capabilities. It's basically just a Super Saiyan version of that previous one. I always really liked this one. Here we have another Super Saiyan Goku, another one that I always really liked. Goku looks so mad in this one. It's while he's in the hyperbolic time chamber. He's wearing this Saiyan armor. I played a lot with this one just because its movement was so great. And of course, you can't have Goku without Vegeta, also rocking the Saiyan armor and in Super Saiyan form. I feel like this is the only Super Saiyan Vegeta figure I had, because I remember playing a lot with this one. The pose was pretty unique and led to some pretty interesting fights, so yep. Here is a non-Super Saiyan Vegeta that, he's missing his arms, which is ironic because this is an Android era Vegeta, and he suffered the same fate that he inflicted upon Android 19, so RIP. I don't remember ever playing with this one at all. I'm assuming it fell apart like moments after I got it, so yeah, just unfortunate all around. And you know what they say, like father, like son. Here we got future Trunks, only he's missing his head. Unlike the Great Saiyaman earlier, this one isn't supposed to come off, it just fell off like almost immediately after I got it. Really unfortunate too, because this one also shoots and comes with its own sword. I'm missing the sword too, but I wouldn't mind missing the sword as much if I wasn't missing the head. Well, it's not missing, it's in the pile, but you know what I mean. Here is a Master Roshi figure. This one was originally Ty's. I don't recall us ever really playing with it too much, but now I'm definitely glad to have it among my collection. It's pretty cool too, the way he's holding out his palms like that. It's almost as like he's summoning a spirit bomb. Then again, knowing Roshi, it's probably for a different reason, but I digress. Here I have the pair of Goten and Trunks. It was a set together like this. They're supposed to like bend at the waist as if they're doing the fusion dance. Unfortunately, they don't really bend too well, and they definitely don't move too well either. I hardly played with these ones because of this. They were more of a display than anything. But the novelty of having these two, like, as a fusion figure was pretty cool in itself. So, of course, I couldn't have Goten and Trunks doing the fusion dance without Gotenks. I don't know if this figure was associated with these two or not. I don't think it was. This one and the Goten and Trunks figures seem like they're made of different materials, so I really don't know. I can't remember, but I do remember playing with this one quite a bit. I like the way his arm bent, made for some pretty satisfying punches and fights. Now here I have just a standalone Super Saiyan Goten. Now that I think about it, I believe this one also came with Trunks. I can't remember for sure. I'm positive about the last bunch, but I don't know about this one. Either way, this set didn't have the bending or fusion gimmick, so they were much more equipped for, you know, standard playing. So I definitely got more use out of these ones than the previous Goten and Trunks. Here's Trunks from the same set. He wasn't really built the same way Goten was. Goten had a lot more versatility when it came to like the way you can move him and orchestrate fights. Trunks didn't really have a lot going for him. Not to mention his leg seems to have fallen off and it's somewhere in the pile, so RIP Trunks. Here I have another one of Goten, and I got this one like way before Goten was even revealed in English. I had no idea who this character even was. I thought his name was Gotten. But it's a pretty cool figure. I don't really recall playing with this one a whole lot though, so... Here's another one that was an early addition to my collection. This is a rubber Gotenks. And this one was nearly impossible to play with just because the way it was put together. Like, being able to bend like this didn't really help being able to play with it. So this one was more just a visual addition to the collection. I'd never really played with it. Here's one of Future Trunks. I believe this was Ty's. I think he got it along with the Vegito, and also like the Vegito, I think it had like a bit of armor that's just missing. It's cool to look at, but I didn't really play with this one too much. I just couldn't get it to move the way I wanted it to, so. Here's one of Young Gohan that I like don't even remember. This must have been one of Ty's. It's another one of the shooters. It's actually a pretty effective shooter still too, so for a figure I barely even remember, this one's pretty impressive. Okay, I take it back, this one sucks. Here we get to another Gohan. This is another one of Ty's. I remember he had to glue the hair on because it kept falling off. This was another really early addition to the collection, and we played quite a bit with this one. Its moving capabilities weren't the best, but we made it work. Here we get to First Form Frieza. This is one of the earliest toys I got. It's a shooter. It came with armor originally, but I don't know what happened to it. He also has this tail which I guess broke off and I could never really fix it, so it's just kind of chilling next to him. Here we get to another Frieza. This is stage 3 and it's another shooter. This was another pretty early addition to my collection. I remember the day I got it, I was so excited because this figure just looked so cool. Had a lot of fun playing with it too, just because his elongated head made fights really entertaining. Headbutting people in particular was always a blast. Speaking of blast, here's another really weird early addition to the collection. This was Ty's. It's Super Boo. The material it's made of is kind of weird. It almost feels rubbery. The weirdest thing about it though is that the set that these figures came from usually included guns. Like they would come with little Dragon Balls, but most of them came with guns too. This one, however, came with a magic staff. I don't know why, but because this came out so long before Boo was even remotely announced in English, Ty and I thought that Boo used the magic staff that came with it. Good times. Now here I have a Krillin figure. I don't remember where I got this. It might have been like a Burger King or a McDonald's toy or something, because it does not seem like it would hold up if it was a toy sold in a set like the rest of these were. The gimmick here is that you set Krillin on this thing and it'll balance him, and it makes it look like he's flying and using a powerful type of ki blast. I really fail to see the point. Here we have another early addition to my collection, another shooter. This is Vegeta from the Namek saga. I was always fascinated by this one just because I loved the detail in that his armor was broken and then it also like ripped his shirt right there where his armor was broken too. I was always so mesmerized by that for some reason. I had a lot of fun playing with him too. You couldn't really punch with him due to the way his hands were, but it was always fun kicking with him. Here we get to another one of Ty's. This is Imperfect Cell. I believe this was also a shooter. I don't know. I've never seen it shoot. I don't think it's compatible with the toy blasts I have, so I don't know. I never played with this one myself much, but it was always cool to look at. He's got this tail too, which I guess falls out. I guess it comes out, so yeah, this is a weird but nice little addition to the collection. Here we got Videl. This one also came with a little dinosaur. I believe they called it Chompy in the English anime. I don't know what happened to Chompy though. It's not in the pile, but Videl is here, so that's all that matters. She had decent movement and positioning with her arms, so punching was pretty nice. She actually had a longer shirt originally, but it impaired the way that her legs could move, so kicking wasn't as good, so I ended up like cutting part of the shirt off. It didn't really help too much, so guess I should have cut her hair instead, am I right? Here is another one of the very first additions to my collection, and it is again another shooter. This is good old Super Saiyan Goku firing a Kamehameha. Look at that bicep. Hilarity aside, I always had a soft spot for this one, maybe because I got it so early I just developed a bond with it, but I always had a good time playing with this one. This one twists at the waist too. I still don't know what that's all about, but it's pretty cool. Now we got Janemba. It's another one of those rubber ones that came out way before its English introduction, and Ty and I had no idea what this character even was. I don't remember playing with this one hardly at all. That's about it for the standard figures. Here I have a gold Super Saiyan Goku. This wasn't a standalone figure. This actually came with a separate toy of the rejuvenation chamber that Goku uses while on planet Namek. Funnily enough, I got way more usage out of this figure than the rejuvenation chamber. That thing was too big and bulky and way too loud, so I don't even know what ended up happening to that, but I definitely played with this a whole lot. Its movement wasn't too bad, and it just looks epic. Definitely played a big role in a lot of the fights I orchestrated. Now we get to these ones, the Burger King toys. In the late 90s, early 2000s, Burger King offered Dragon Ball Z merchandise in their kids' meals. They came with these figures as well as the trading cards. And it's ironic because I kept most of the figures I got while getting rid of most of the cards, and I ended up getting way more into the card game after I kind of fell out of the action figures. There were 7 figures in total, and each one of them came with a card about them. There were 2 Gokus, one regular, one Super Saiyan, Gohan, Krillin, Piccolo, Vegeta, and Frieza. The only one I never got throughout this entire promotion was regular Goku. I always thought it was kind of funny that I didn't get like regular Goku, but I got the epic looking Super Saiyan one, which is also gold. Kind of funny. But anyway, the best thing about this promotion was if you got 5 of these, you could send it into Funimation and they would mail you a VHS tape of the Dragon Ball Z series. I don't know if this tape was randomized or whatever, but I ended up collecting 5, sending it in, and after, I remember it being a very long time, I didn't think anything would come of it, I finally got a tape sent to me. Again, I don't know if this tape was randomized or they sent out the same copy to everyone, but the tape I got was called Z Warriors Prepare. It took place in between the Trunks saga and the Android saga. The way tapes worked, they usually featured 3 or 4 episodes per tape. This one had 2 episodes and one like 20-minute special, just like explaining what happened in the series. It was really weird. Like, it seemed to me at the time like this was just a special tape, but I don't know, maybe I just got lucky when they sent this to me. I really don't know. But yeah, the tape thing was pretty cool. The card things were cool in retrospect. I'm upset at myself that I got rid of most of them, but the figures themselves I didn't really play with too much. The only ones I kinda did were Piccolo and Krillin, because them being, you know, gray like this, they kinda look like they're stone, so I kinda treated them like when Dabor uses his spit technique and turns Piccolo and Krillin into stone. I kinda use these for that sometimes, but other than that, I didn't really play with these figures too much. They were more of a, you know, collectible to look at. And that about does it for the main figures in the pile. There's also mini figures like this one, as well as, of course, Pokemon ones, among other little oddities, like I mentioned, the Dragon Balls. Nearly every one of the main action figures came with 3 Dragon Balls, so I accumulated plenty throughout the years. There's also these little medallion things that I don't really know what they're supposed to be about, but kind of cool to look at. Here's Rogue from X-Men Evolution. I'm not sure what she's doing in here. I don't know where this even came from, so I'll just set her aside with Yusuke. And then we got these little bears that I really don't know why these are in here, but they're always a hilarious little addition to the collection. Here's a Saiyan space pod that I believe originally came with this little Vegeta figure, which is the smallest of all these figures. But eventually this pod got overtaken by this Gotenks, so yeah, that's just Gotenks' permanent home now. I almost forgot, there's this figure, which is a Goku from the Android era. It's pretty much identical to the one Ty had. The only problem is mine broke the instant I got it. It falls apart, but it's able to like be fit back together. So hold on a moment as I restore this piece right here. There we go. As you can see, it fits together nicely, and once together it looks pretty good. I wasn't even too upset about the fact that I couldn't really play with it, because for one, Ty had a nearly identical figure, and two, I could just use this in a cinematic when Goku was being destroyed. You would have a nice visual accompaniment as Goku gets obliterated, so that was always fun. But that's about all the figures individually, so now I'm going to line them all up so you can see the full collection.